Society for Theory and Research on Salutogenesis in collaboration with the Global Working Group on Salutogenesis. I'm Jake Sallaway-Costello at the University of Nottingham in the United Kingdom, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. This is a really exciting development for us today because we've got a major publication which we hope is going to be really useful for you. Just before I hand over to Lenneke to explain the structure of our 2-hour webinar today, I've been asked to give everybody an opportunity to talk about your experiences with the Hitchhiker's Guide to Salutogenesis. So today we're going to be talking about the new second edition, our new exciting development, but we're hoping that many of you will be familiar with the first edition of this text. If you can access the chat for me, I can already see some people typing into the chat. What we'd like, if you have connected with either of these editions, the first edition, the second edition, you've read it, you've written about it, you've written in it, we'd like to hear what your contribution was or just your connection with this text. If I maybe put a minute on the timer and if everybody could just give a quick sentence explaining your connection with either of those texts. Equally, if you've never had any connection with either of them, we'd like to hear about that too, because it will give us a good insight into what we can deliver with this new edition. Let's put 1 minute on the clock. Answers in the chat for us, please. Marguerite says that the first edition is fantastic for teaching. I fully agree, Marguerite. One of the shames that I dislike about it is that the only copy my university has is the one on my bookshelf, so I have to physically take it to class and we have to hand it around for the students to get the key working ideas there. We've got other colleagues joining from Germany now. Leslie says that she's recently got her hands on a second edition. That's great, Leslie. And using it as a theoretical framework for mental health promotion. That's going to be fantastic if you could join our breakout room on mental health, which is, I believe, breakout room 1. Someone's using salutogenesis to teach health promotion to midwives. This is essential. Again, if you want to tell us a little bit more in our breakout room about how you're using it in teaching context, would be fantastic. Maria used the first edition so much it fell apart. What a shame that it's not in publication and we can't give you a second copy. Georg really enjoyed being one of the co-authors and editors of the new edition, and we really value his work. And Ruca says that the first edition started her journey into salutogenesis as a PhD student in the field, and she feels flattered to be part of that second edition. Amanda, like so many others, devastated that she doesn't have a first copy. But the fantastic thing about our second edition, Amanda, is that it's open access and everyone in the world can enjoy it. Keep your answers coming. It's fantastic to see so much contact with the first and second edition. At this stage, I'm going to pass over to my colleague in the Netherlands, Lenneke Vaandrage, to tell us about the structure of today's webinar. Take it away, Lenneke.
Yeah, I think it's, I'm just going to share my slides. Can you all see them?
Yeah.
Okay. So today's webinar, we will actually talk about this new Hitchhiker's Guide to Salutogenesis called From Ottawa Charter to Planetary Health. And the idea of today's webinar is actually that we become a little bit aware of why this first Hitchhiker's Guide, but also what are new developments in the Hitchhiker's Guide. And also, we really would like to share and discuss ideas about creating coherence on individual, setting, and societal level. So that's something really new also in the book, that we look at different levels. So what we will do is that we just had this little check-in where you all gave a little idea of what the first Hitchhiker's Guide and the second one meant. We will have, after I showed you the program, we will have a short introduction of everyone here who contributed to the book. Then I will interview Bengt, Monica, and Georg a little bit about the book. We have then a salutogenic intermezzo and a break at 10 to 2. Then we will go into breakout rooms, and you can join a room, a topic which is of your interest. And then we will come back in the big group as we are now, and then we will just share what happened in the breakout rooms, and we will conclude the session. The breakout rooms, which are actually from 2 until 2:30, are 5 groups. The first one is about the salutogenesis in the context of healthcare with Monica Eriksson. The second one is with me and Maria about learning processes. The third is about the context of work with Georg and Anja. Then we have one with Ruca and Jake about society, salutogenesis in the context of society. And the fifth breakout room is from Ottawa Charter to Planetary Health with Bengt and Claudia. So that's a little bit about the program. I'm going to stop sharing again, because I think it's also good that we shortly introduce everyone here who actually contributed to the book. So Bengt, could you start as the first one and introduce yourself? I think lots of people knowing you, but
I'm not sure. I'm Bengt Lindström, and I was the editor with Monica Eriksson of the first edition of the Hitchhiker's Guide. And I was a person who was working together with Antonovsky the last 7 years of life. And because he just departed, I decided to start to look at salutogenesis and what it means and introduce it into public health. That was the starting point. It's a long journey now, and 25, 30 years, more than 30 years. And that therefore we are here today with the Global Working Group for Salutogenesis with many theses and many publications, and also the first and second Hitchhiker's Guide. Let's be that.
wonderful. And then Monica, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everybody, salutogenic friends all over the world. Nice to see you. I'm a PhD and professor of public health and health promotion, and all my research has been focused on salutogenesis. I defended my doctoral thesis in 2007 in Finland, and the title was Unraveling the Mystery of Salutogenesis. It is a systematic research synthesis based on more than 450 scientific papers. Nowadays, I'm retired from University West in Trollhättan, Sweden, but affiliated researcher at the department.
Leo, let's go for a walk, buddy.
Sorry.
It's okay. There was just somebody who had the microphone on.
Okay, I'm affiliated researcher at the Department of Psychology at Lund University. And a message to all attending this webinar. If you have questions afterwards, please mail me and we can discuss, and hope I can respond to your questions.
Thanks a lot, Monica. Wonderful. Georg, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Georg. I have the pleasure to really follow the big steps of Bengt. I mean, he was chairing the Global Working Group of Salutogenesis for many years, and in 2017 I took over, and I do my best together with our Center of Salutogenesis in Zurich to follow this mission, which Bengt already had described, really advancing and disseminating salutogenesis across the world. And I had the pleasure to write this chapter on work, for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. Maria.
Yes, I am Maria Koelen, a retired professor of health and society. I worked for many years at Wageningen University, and from that many years, I think almost most of that many years together with Lenneke, with great pleasure. In my work, I used a lot, still in fact, the ideas of salutogenesis, and I love the idea of further developing the theory and find with the applications in both research and in education. So that's it.
Thank you, Maria. Then Claudia.
My name is Claudia Meier Magistretti. I am a co-author of the second and the translator for German of the first edition of the Hitchhiker's Guide of Salutogenesis. I'm also a member of the Global Working Group and one of the editors of the handbook. The second edition for the German book is awaited, and so I'm very happy to contribute to this webinar that will be also soon translated, I think partly the new book. I'm a professor for early childhood care and education at Graz University in Austria, and I'm also a psychoanalytic psychotherapist. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Ruca.
I'm an associate professor at the NTNU in Trondheim, Norway, and I've been working with salutogenesis since my PhD, which I wrote on neighborhoods as a salutogenic setting with Bengt as my co-supervisor. And since then, it really has grown on me. Salutogenesis, I use it in research and in teaching. And based on my background as an occupational therapist and community psychology, I always had this focus on people and context and the interplay. So I have been looking very much on the context side of salutogenesis and see how we can develop this one. I also wrote this chapter on society in the handbook, which I will talk about later in the breakout room.
Wonderful, Ruca. Thank you. Anja.
Hello, welcome. My name is Anja Lehmann. I'm from the University of Zurich, and I work there as a senior researcher in the group of Georg Bauer. And I also had the pleasure to wrote together with Georg the chapter on work and salutogenesis. So my research focus is on applying salutogenesis to the workplace. So particularly about people with mental health issues as well, but yeah, with health problems in general. So.
Thank you, Anja. I realized I didn't introduce myself. I'll do that now. So I'm Lenneke Vaandrage, based at Wageningen University in the Netherlands. And I do a lot of research around the healthy living environment, very much related to topics around care and justice and participation. And also the first Hitchhiker's Guide has always really inspired me a lot in my work. So salutogenesis is coming back through my work a lot. So I really enjoy that, and also being involved on the chapter about salutogenesis in the context of learning. But we also, with Laura Bouwman, who unfortunately couldn't be here, wrote a chapter more about the critical aspects if you think about salutogenesis. And I think it's also good to mention that Eva Langeland also contributed to the book, but was unfortunately also not able to join us today. But I think altogether it was a really nice process to work together and produce this second Hitchhiker's Guide. That leads me on to interviewing three people who played a very important role. So Bengt, this Hitchhiker's Guide, this second Hitchhiker's Guide, beautiful layout and book, and also completely open access, so everyone can read it and see it. This was actually your idea as the first Hitchhiker's Guide. Was also your idea. Can you explain why for you actually started at that time with the first Hitchhiker's Guide, and why you thought there should be a second Hitchhiker's Guide?
Well, the first one, if you go back in time, I think health promotion was quite new, and salutogenesis was quite new. And what was done was that Monica Eriksson, whom I supervised at the time, wrote her thesis unraveling the mystery of salutogenesis, which I have here. It's a big thesis, and it was the first time actually we could grab the whole area thanks to Monica's systematic review. And what we realized was that there were many sort of directions for salutogenesis at the time, which were not based on the genuine salutogenesis and theory and method of measuring of Antonovsky. So I think Monica had to disclose almost 60-80% of what was written at the time, because it was not accurate. And we felt that now it's important to get this sort of accuracy into a book, into a short book that people can read and understand, and also include the theory and the thoughts of Antonovsky and how it was implemented in the action areas of health promotion. And it became a short book that we wrote. I think we started in May, and then we broke up for the summer because there was some kind of global work or WHO meeting in the summer, and we started in the autumn. But very quickly we got it together, and it's a small and thin book. And that was part of the sort of advantage of it. It's small, it's handy, you can have it, and it's complete. It was unique at the time. So this was sort of the background. The basis of salutogenesis combined with the basis of health promotion and bringing up to date with what was done in research in the area at the time. So that was sort of the first book. We made 15,000 copies, and I almost ran out of all of them. I found a box of some of them at home. So Jake, you will have your second copy when we meet next time.
And can you tell us a little bit more, Bengt, about the process of how we developed this book together?
You told about the second book.
Yes.
No. Yeah. Well, again, time has passed. It's 15 years since the first Hitchhiker's Guide, and we have had the global working group sort of focusing and concentrating on what salutogenesis is today. We have a tremendous amount of research all over the world. Today we can actually see that the concept is and the method is global. We have the first book, I forgot to tell, has been translated into, I have 2 languages here, but we got the 9th language 2 weeks ago, Polish, and the 10th language will come in Portuguese later this year. So we try to actually not only bring it into the English word, but to the global word and the global language, which I think we have succeeded. And of course, after 15 years, things have developed quite a lot. And that's one reason why we wanted to make a new one, and which I sort of talked about it for many years before we got going. And one of the reasons, the first book was actually financed by myself, but the second book is actually the Global Working Group has found funds for this. And also this time, we are not going out and having a book that you have to order and mail, but a book that you can on open access take down from the net. And there's really much new to this. And I really like it to be now an open access book that is really accessible. Maybe I should also say that the editors have the right privilege to let other languages come into the area. It's not Springer who does it, we can do it ourselves. We just say to Springer, now we make it into that language. That makes it easier also, if only we. So Monica and Lenneke, you're in on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Bengt. And then Monica, what's actually new in this updated guide? Can you take us along a little bit with that?
The biggest change compared to the first edition is that this one is an anthology. The first one was edited by me and Bengt, but this second edition we are 3 editors, and we invited co-authors. Thank you all contributors to the second. It has been a nice discussions and great to have contact with you. So thank you for your commitment and good discussions. The second edition is much expanded and revised. It's much more pages in this second edition, and it describes the theoretical background and the theory from an individual level to a societal level. 12 chapters and 138 pages is the second edition. So we have had the space to go deeper into some context like working life and learning, societal level, and so on. Also healthcare.
Do you want to show some slides, Monica?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Focus in this second edition has been a change of perspective, another way of thinking. We always talk about this, think in another way, think in a salutogenic way. And we highlight the salutogenic principles for application in practice and by showing some examples of salutogenic interventions. Application is really important. Now we can go further.
Do you want to show some slides, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, so Martin, could you help? Wonderful. We have Martin as a wonderful help with us.
So, as I always said, you can always contact me, mail me, and we can discuss your questions. Next slide, please. When talking about salutogenesis, most of the discussions have been on the core concept sense of coherence, but salutogenesis is much more than only measuring sense of coherence. And this salutogenic umbrella, the figure in chapter 3, lists some theoretical concepts relevant to nursing in healthcare, because we have one chapter in the application section on healthcare. I don't go into this and explain the different concepts, but think about this umbrella and think about the opportunities to focus on resources of people and patients and all you meet. For me, it's a figure of opportunities. We can take the next. And in chapter 4, I show this globe, and it describes how the SOC questionnaire has been used in studies over the world on different samples and cultures and disciplines, at least in 73 countries per September 2024. We can take the next. There are some studies supporting, this is about the dimensionality and structure of the sense of coherence scale. And some studies support an unidimensional structure like Antonovsky, others do not. Seems to be a multidimensional construct than just one general factor with 3 dimensions. And the new is, it seems to be more sculpture sensitive than we have supposed. Especially in Eastern countries. There are several studies on the structure in Chinese and with different findings. It's very important when you translate the questionnaire in other languages. It's not about only about linguistics, but also a deep understanding of lived experience. How do the respondents experience and understand the questions? It's not always the same in Western countries than in Eastern countries, but more and more interest has been focused on the dimensionalities. And I also wanted to revise the definition of sense of coherence. It's more than 40 years since Antonovsky defined the concept, and we have much research after that, and I suggest a new revised definition here. The new in the definition is marked in red. Okay, please, next. In chapter 5, we talk about health, mental health, and quality of life. And we define and positions health in a salutogenic way. And we have choice to, as you can see, Professor Eva Langeland from Norway, we have written this chapter together, and she is specialized in mental health, and one of the researchers that have done much research on salutogenic principles and among patients with mental health problems. This we have chose to use this figure by Nina Helen Mjösund. This is a salutogenic interpretation of mental health. It is Nina interviewed persons with long-term mental disorders, how they revealed experience as a movement, like walking up and down a staircase. And mental health for this person was an aspect of being that is always present, and which is nourished by the 4 domains of life, as physical, social, emotional, and spiritual dimensions. And we use the terms of flourishing and languishing. Flourishing means that you are with good mental health, and languishing with poor mental health. These two concepts are not so well known in salutogenesis. But we want to show and highlight this explanation of mental health. We can take the next. And Eva Langeland has focused on the guiding principles and salutogenic. What are the criteria for interventions? She and her colleagues has a long chapter in the Handbook of Salutogenesis. I don't go through this table, but reflect on the factors that makes an intervention salutogenic. And this is in chapter 6 in applications. And I want you to reflect on your own activities. Are they created by these characteristics? If yes, that's good. Keep it up. And if not, consider what you can complete and change. I think the most important for application of salutogenesis in practice is to understand the idea and a theoretical foundation behind salutogenesis, and that salutogenesis is much more than the only core concept sense of coherence. Please, next. And this is also in chapter 6, and an example how to think and talk about salutogenesis. It's called the collegial model for salutogenic dialogues. The note that we most of the concepts here is you know as the sense of coherence, but note that we also have sense for coherence. It is not so much known about in what I know, but sense for coherence. We highlighted this because professionals need to learn about salutogenesis and develop a deep and own understanding of it in order to be able to recognize specific resistance resources and generalized resistance resources. The last two concepts are forgotten in the discussion about salutogenesis and sense of coherence, but the GRRs and SRRs are really close, come close to sense of coherence. It gives the prerequisites to develop a strong sense of coherence. So think about your own activities and reflect on its, is it salutogenic?
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Monica, for this very wonderful explanation of a number of parts in the book. Very exciting and new visions, I think. I would like to ask now to Georg, because if we look at this Hitchhiker's Guide, we also have this handbook, which is this. I have to pick it up to show. You have it, the handbook, and if you look at those two, how does actually the Hitchhiker's Guide, how does it relate to the handbook?
Very nice question. I think evidently, first of all, they differ a lot. So this one, very light reading. This one, very heavy reading. So evidently there's some difference. But when you look more in a dynamic way, how they relate to the development of salutogenesis as a scholarly field, then we see they do have an actually quite organic interwoven relationship. Because, I mean, as we heard from Bengt, the first Hitchhiker's Guide really helped after Antonovsky died way too early to remind us of this concept and provide it in a condensed way to a broad audience. And also it was very much spread in Scandinavian countries through good educational programs. And that really led to a spread of the field in Scandinavia. Still now, 1/3 of our members in Star Society, 1,000 people come from Scandinavia. But that also helped certainly the literature to spread and evolve. So in 2015, we thought as a global working group on salutogenesis, this field is really at a stage where it needs a sound basis, a handbook, which really would combine this breadth and depth of knowledge in salutogenesis. I think that certainly was building on this first Hitchhiker's Guide. The first edition had even literature of 14 different international languages beyond English inside. And the second edition are 83 authors really providing this big overview also about applications in various fields. And I think the great contribution and great difference now is that certainly Bengt and Monica were brave enough to think now we need to somehow again provide a more concise introduction, building on this sound basis of the handbook. And I really would like to congratulate all three of you who are the editors. We do really manage to involve more people, more perspectives, more application areas, and still it's all within 100 pages, very easily accessible, much better than the handbook. So to sum up, I think it's a kind of a love relationship between the two. They build on each other. And I also consider the Hitchhiker's Guide as an invitation to find out more about salutogenesis in the handbook once you have read it. So thanks a lot also really for this great contribution of the three of you.
Yeah. Thank you, Georg. And Bengt, this first edition has been so enormously popular, as you already showed. It's been translated in many languages. Can you explain why it's being used so much?
Well, as we heard, we have been quite successful in the Nordic area, in the Nordic countries, to spread it, as we hear about the members. And I find it almost as a deficit, but we now have 10 languages, and I think we will have it very, very, very much broader spread, and also that we can make the second Hitchhiker's Guide available in different languages later on. But I think basically the success is it was hard to read about salutogenesis. Well, of course, you can go into scientific literature and read Monica Eriksson's thesis, but I don't think people in general, professionals in general, don't do it. And the handbook is also a fantastic story, but it's a long journey to get in there. You need some kind of introduction to understand this, and we also feel that we got the graph somehow with the first one because it was easy, handy, and unique. And I think the number 2 is also unique. And I have to go back and say I talked to one of the sort of key persons in health promotion and salutogenesis. This is Morris Mittelmark in Bergen, who was very important in the process of bringing forward both the Hitchhiker's Guide number 1 and the handbooks. He was the sort of key editor of them, and I consulted him, and he said, "Well, it should be done because it's still unique. And on the other side, there's so much more to tell in now compared to 2010. It's actually 15 years, quite a long time.
Yeah.
Any more you wanted to?
No, that's really nice. And Monica, if you in a few words would have to say what's really different of this second-hand guide. You're muted.
I already mentioned that this is anthology instead of the short first edition. When I saw this second edition, I was a little bit ashamed and felt that the first edition was so simply and so short. But it's nice to hear and see your comments how important this short publication has been. But now we have done a better second edition. I already mentioned about highlighting the focus on applications.
Yes.
I think this is the most important for the rest of our lives. We have to apply salutogenesis in practice. And I think it's you have to think what is the specific resistance resources in your own activities and business, and identify these resources. So I think we have forgotten the GRRs and SRRs. So we put also emphasis on this in the new edition.
Yeah. I can imagine all this might raise questions. People, Jake and Martin, have you seen any questions in the chat which we think we...
Not so far. We welcome colleagues to ask questions of our editors. While we're waiting, Lenneke, I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I see in the chat, when we asked people what was your interaction with either the first or the second edition, there is an overwhelming mention of using salutogenic ideas in teaching or for teaching. And of course, you co-authored a chapter on salutogenesis and learning.
Yes.
I suppose my question here is, since the first edition, there has been a huge body of scholarship on salutogenic teaching and learning. What did you choose to put in this chapter, the new chapter, and how did you decide what the biggest innovations are that need to go into the new Hitchhiker's Guide?
Yeah, I think what's really important, what we did in the chapter about learning, is that we say, yeah, learning actually happens everywhere. It never stops also, and also you have different types of learning, not only cognitive, but also we learn with our hearts, with our heads, with our bodies, and that learning in itself can be so empowering. So we looked at how does that actually work, and that we learn through observation and discussion and being in various situations. But that what we really find important is that learning also needs a safe environment. So if there's a safe environment, and also that there's feedback. That's so important for all learning processes. So often within the learning, it's so important to have role models, but to have structure and this safe environment. And very much being a role model. I want to refer back to Monica's model also. Like if you think of within a PhD supervision, for instance, also that you are not there as a teacher telling what the PhD candidate should do, but that you're next to somebody and creating a safe environment and opportunities actually to learn. So within that chapter, we explain this and also we give a number of examples that it's so broad where this learning actually happens. Yeah.
If I could just follow up with I see a question is in the chat, but I'll use the opportunity to ask you a follow-up question, Lenneke.
Yeah.
I also see a couple of people earlier said that they use salutogenic ideas in coaching, and I see a couple of colleagues that I recognize names are really involved in coaching.
Yes.
So does the chapter on learning have value beyond formal teaching experiences, say university teaching and school teaching? Can it be used to inform things like coaching, which is about more individualized, one-on-one kind of learning?
Yeah, of course. That's what I mean. It's in all spheres of life where this learning happens. Raising a child, indeed in coaching situations. So I think a lot of these type of principles they work on all levels and in all different situations, and also that you can realize how you can block the learning by doing the opposite. Actually.
That's really useful. Thank you. Just noticed that Karen asked a question in the chat. Is it possible to get a hard copy? Of course it is, and
It
it's
is.
excellent. So we recommend that everybody gets one. I ordered it. It came really, really quickly. It was delivered in about 2 working days from Springer. I've put the link in the chat for you to both get the open access copy and also to purchase a hard copy if you wish.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think that was also with the first handbook to actually have it in your hands and as a source to go back to. But I also think because the first handbook, when we were writing, updating this handbook, we were thinking, where are there are actually the drafts of the first version, which were not so easy to access. But it's really nice that it's now all open access. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it, I think, about time for a salutogenic intermezzo?
Yes, Bengt. It's your first salutogenic intermezzo.
You're on mute, Bengt. You need to turn on your microphone.
Life events are the things that develop our sense of coherence. And this is Alfred. He's about 3 months old, and he's encountering something new in his life. And let's see what happens. He tries once. It's something completely new. And it seems to be a life experience that you have to try again. Although it was pretty sour, you try again. Alfred, were you happy with this? Did this make your sense of coherence better? Did this improve your life? Sitting on the lap of your father. Okay, we continue when the second intermezzo comes after our breakout sessions.
I see. So there's an end of the story of the baby and the lemon, which we're all very excited to look forward to finding out what that is. Is it time now for a break, Lenneke, to give people a chance there?
Yes, so let's have a 10-minute break.
We'll take a 10-minute break, yeah, and then we'll come back for some breakout rooms.
Yeah, so is it helpful again that I tell which breakout rooms people can choose from?
Maybe then people can have a think over the break about which one they'd like to join.
Okay.
Maybe you can just share the slide and keep it on. I think that'd be the easiest.
If you want to go to salutogenesis in the context of healthcare, you go to 1. If you want to go to salutogenesis in the context of learning processes, you go to 2. Work is in 3. Society in 4. And Ottawa Charter to Planetary Health is in 5.
Wonderful. We hope that everybody enjoyed the breakout room discussions and learning about a chapter of the new Hitchhiker's Guide in more detail. I believe now it's time for us to get our second salutogenic intermezzo, and everybody's on tenterhooks, Bengt, because they want to know what the outcome of this great lemon story was.
Well, you will see Alfred 3 weeks later. he's in Italy with his grandmother. And what is he doing with lemon now? What has he learned?
Show it to us, Martin.
It was very short, but he thoroughly enjoys lemon nowadays. He insisted to have lemon in the morning at home now. And I just wanted to show this as a just life event that grows into life experience. And life experience is something that you have integrated in your future life. And this is just as simple as saying that the life event can be a very small little stimulating some nerves and creating some sort of sourness in your mouth, and afterwards you can actually enjoy it. This is what we do with everything else in life. We encounter, we think about it, we reflect, and we do something about it. Salutogenesis.
Thank you, Bengt. It's nice to see that story. I will now pass over to Lenneke. Are we going to share some insights, Lenneke?
Yes, I think it's good to have a little round of what happened in the breakout rooms. And Bengt, it's so lovely to see your grandchild and that you are such a very proud grandfather. That's really wonderful. It's very nice films here. Let's turn us first to the group of Monica about the healthcare group. Monica, can you give a short update of what was happened in your breakout room?
We discussed some very important things, and we talked about developing new surveys and questionnaires focusing on salutogenic factors instead of new versions of the sense of coherence scale, because we know much about the SOF, but there are few new salutogenic questionnaires measuring salutogenic factors. And then we talked about the audience shared their experience of salutogenesis in their activities, and they highlighted the importance of the environment and how important it is to create coherence for people. And then we ended up with the critical issue and the question that is, what does it mean to be salutogenic? We do not have research on this issue. But Antonovsky said, be salutogenic, think and act salutogenically. But what does this really mean? And we discussed how important to, when running a survey, that we need to begin with a qualitative study explaining or exploring what the respondents understand by salutogenic and health promoting factors. What factors are they helped by? So we need to find research and get research on what does it mean to be salutogenic. This is your task for your next survey.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Monica, for explaining what happened in the first group. Then I would like to ask Maria, and I was in the same breakout room as Maria, about what came forward in our discussions in our breakout room?
Well, first of all, it was really interesting to hear the wide range of topics and contexts and areas in which salutogenic learning is applied, voluntary, conscious, or even not conscious. It is applied in many spheres of life, you could say. And I think one important thing is that learning is more than just a cognitive activity. Somehow cognition plays a role, but it's also very much about learning by hands and heart, so emotions, experiences, having examples by observing other people, etc. So I think the most important thing I think is that learning with head, hands, and heart, this combination, that is a form of salutogenic learning. But also it's important that the idea of being in a safe environment, feeling safe to learn, also feeling safe to make mistakes, for example. If there is a supportive environment, a safe environment, also making mistakes or failures are important contributors to learning. I think this, for me, this was the most important part. Or having space for learning someone. I think it very nicely summarizes the safe environment.
Thank you, Maria. Then the group of Georg and Anja.
Yes, we discussed how we can apply salutogenesis in the workplace, and we discussed about the importance of job resources and the external working environment for thriving on the one side, but on the other side, we also discussed what is important for also agentic behavior. We introduced as a crafting behavior. So, and then, we asked what are the important predictors for crafting, and then we came to the point that leadership remains important because leaders create the environment in order to get people to be proactive and to create their own work environment that really fits to their individual needs. And then we also talk about the mental health crisis that is also in our workplace and how to keep people with mental health issues also in the workplace. And then we discussed also, particularly when you have a health crisis, how important the environment could be and how important it is to create an environment where people feel safe. And then our discussion moved also to the question whether we can change SOC and and what is important to change SOC then. So thanks.
Thank you, Anja. Then Jake and Ruca.
Yeah, we were breakout group 4, so we talked about the society and the SOC, and well, we kind of agreed that it's not the SOC is not that individual a concept if you really look into it, because it is, of course, shaped by the experiences we do with the structures and the social structures around us from day to day. We had a political scientist who works with refugees talking about her experiences in applying it on this work and how the experiences the people make after the migration builds coherence and a salutogenic capacity. We then also talked about if society poses these demands, we quite early came to the problem of capitalism, which of course is very much dominating our systems. And where Margaret talked about a book she read, The Myth of Normal, which actually describes how this capitalist system poses a lot of challenges on our families, which threaten coherence and a salutogenic development, but we always accept them as normal, and that's just the way it is. And that was then backed up by Jake, who talked about his students, where especially the parents of the students are more interested in knowing if the study will result in a paying job than seeing it as a way to kind of grow and learn and develop and to make experiences. From there, we also mentioned there's this kind of global movement on the well-being economy and care economy. You might see in the chat there's been posted some links, because that's kind of one attempt which is done now in many countries, at least in Norway also, to kind of reclaim some of the economics where the money is just a mean to achieve well-being for people and not an aspiration in itself, which sounds very revolutionary in these days. Yeah, well, then we tried to outline solutions, which of course is not that easy, but we could agree that it's, well, that, you know, if you look at the river and the swimmer, we could also ask, why should we swim? Can we just float? Somebody suggested we can put on snorkels and look at the river from a whole different perspective and see what it provides and how to maintain the river while being a better swimmer. And I think we didn't resolve all these issues, but it were very nice discussions and inputs. Yeah. I don't know, Jake, if there's something I forgot.
No, I think I'm literally just about to write down. I like the idea of looking under the river rather than
Yes.
seeing it through the eyes of the person who is swimming.
Let's
Perhaps
go diving.
we need to start looking under the currents rather than just how they flow. Really interesting.
Really interesting.
Thank you. Sounds like a very nice discussion as well. And then finally, Bengt and Claudia.
Bengt, go ahead, please.
You're muted.
So Claudia was starting. We actually focused, and we were focused on the beginning of the area of health promotion, and also focused on one of the big lacks of the otherwise very good Ottawa chart, and that is the lack of theory, which we all have heard about, and we all emphasized again and again that theory would have made this much more coherent, much more approachable for everybody and understandable. So creating coherence in health promotion needs salutogenesis. And then we shifted over the whole sort of perspective over the last years into the broad question of planetary health. How can you actually create coherence in planetary health? And this is a field where Claudia has been working and guiding WHO how to deal with this from a salutogenic perspective. Claudia and Jake were involved in this, creating of coherence.
Yes, creating coherence, but also encouraging people to deal with incoherence, which is both part of the growing process in health. We had interesting participants in a small but very interesting group we had. One person who wrote, not in English, but in another language, which shows us again how important the local networks are in the local languages, wrote a chapter or a paper for students how you can use salutogenesis as a theory for health promotion long before the Global Working Group did it, seemingly. We also had a participant talking about home, and we tried to connect architecture, feeling home, the social construction of the concept of home to planetary health and to creating homes together with other people and in a planet that who is no longer just a provider of general resistance resources, but an interaction partner with us to create health. So we could sort of draw a line that we tried to see where salutogenesis can help us to give an orientation and to give a coherence in our action. So to act salutogenically could also mean to go back to Bengt's octopus. Maybe you can close with the octopus, Bengt.
It is actually a pentapus, which was one of the problems with the Ottawa Charter, is that it had 5 action years, but people in general continued with their own previous activities, not integrating the Ottawa Charter principles in this, which meant that the legs of the octopus or pentapus moved in 5 directions, and we need this coherence. I think what we in the Global Working Group have done and spent quite a lot of time is to understand coherence. Is coherence more important to understand than only the sense of coherence? And Ruca and Georg and Jake and I and Claudia have been involved in this group where we developed this. And I think this is part of what we'll see in the future. How do you get coherence in the word? While we have leadership, which is trying to make incoherence of everything right now. It's that the present trend, it's much more incoherent.
Thank you, Bengt and Claudia. It's interesting to see that the chat is very lively with loads of resources. So it's something we should really share. It's really wonderful that so much is coming in. I'm handing over to Jake, Jake for the final bit.
So I believe it falls on me just to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. What I would say, Lenneke points out the chat is active with people sharing resources and commenting. If you do have any questions, we will certainly give an opportunity for questions. But if you do have questions that we haven't covered today and you'd like to speak to any of our chapter authors, please do put your questions in the chat. I'm sure, Martin, there must be a way of downloading the chat somehow or keeping a record of it. Yeah, he says there is. So our authors will be able to respond to you directly. In terms of what is next on our STARS webinar series coming up, we have a webinar coming up on the subject of salutogenic prisons with a focus on architecture. That will be sometime in November, and we'll get it into your email inbox when we have the dates and times. And then either time in late December or sometime in January, we're going to have a Spanish language webinar, which we're very excited about, with colleagues from both Spanish-speaking Europe and Spanish-speaking South America. I believe, is there anything else you'd like to cover today, Lenneke, or is there time for a roundup by anybody?
Yeah, I think we should ask both Bengt and Monica maybe to say what's the take-home message. Maybe Monica starts.
Okay, my take-home message is be salutogenic, think salutogenically, and act salutogenically.
Wonderful. And Bengt?
Yes, I'm speaking of a deficit. We are talking of a life orientation sort of questionnaire, but we are talking only about health in principle. I would like to promote life in the whole discussion. And the other discussion I would like to emphasize is that everything we work on is based on human rights. I also would like the take-home message is that we still are mainly working with the professional side of this. What about the ordinary person? Can I ever go out in the street and ask a person, how is your sense of coherence? I think that's a very stupid question. And we need to find a way of conveying salutogenesis in terms that the ordinary person knows. We are professionals, we work mainly with academics and professional environments, but the next step is to get to the people, the activists we talk about, who can understand this. So that's the road, I would say, would be the future. Maybe I will write a book on this.
You should. That's great. And Georg, can I ask you what the stars have for us in store for the future?
STAR stands for the Society for Theory on Research on Salutogenesis. And I just would like to make a reminder that's really an open society, so everyone can join for free. And also the idea, it's a sharing platform. So whenever you have any questions which now emerge, which you would like to be addressed in a future webinar, for example, just post it as an idea via our email address there, which you find there. Or also you can write a blog entry. If you found something very intriguing, then you can make a suggestion for a blog entry. And again, we will review and publish that later on. So it's really an interactive platform where we can exactly continue what we started today or refresh today in this webinar. And certainly we will grow the membership. Currently we have 3,000 members. It's growing every year by around 500 people. Again, you can also link to people from your field. We have people in the fields of healthcare settings, everyday settings, educational settings, life stages, intercultural salutogenesis, migration context, and policy context. That are the biggest fields of members, where you can also link to colleagues from the same field. We are also developing and advancing the teaching materials. We are ready to set up some introductory videos to salutogenesis. We would like to also create a PhD network and colloquia, international one. So whenever we have PhDs here and you would be interested to join, again, really let us know. And we will set up such a network by end of this year or early next year. And last not least, there will be a 7th international conference, the 8th international conference on salutogenesis. It will be in January 2027, and it will be in, and that we leave open because there needs to be some excitement where it will be. We are still not ready to disclose that, but there will be one for sure at that time. We are very much excited about this. It will be a very nice place, very interesting place. Looking forward to that. And also thanks from my side for joining this incredible lively webinar.
Yes, so I would also like, on my behalf, thank everyone for great participation, great involvement. I think this is such a resource also to have so many people joining this seminar with so much knowledge, and that we really managed to exchange amongst each other, and that's very inspiring. So thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Bye.